Yo, what is going on, homies? It's your boy StumpD back from the OPTC video, and in today's video, we're updating our endgame tier list and talking about the legends on OPTC and showcasing where they shine most for you endgame players. Now, I always like to do a monthly tier list at the start of the month with the new characters, sort of talking about that sort of beginner to mid-game player, more like mid to end-game player, tier list of how a character operates in every aspect of the game. Well, in today's video, in the endgame tier list, we like to focus on the big three that endgame players mostly target their team building towards. That being 10-star Kazunas and super bosses, PvP, and treasure map. If a character shines in 10-star Kazunas and super bosses, as well as treasure map, and as well as PvP, they are going to find themselves higher on the tier list. If they shine more in just super boss, they'll probably find their way into meta, but if they can sort of perform really well in like 2 out of 3 areas, they are going to be much higher than most other characters. For example, like, most characters can complete most things in the game. Stuff like forest, garb challenges, arenas, point farming events. Most characters can do pretty much everything in the game when it comes to that sort of stuff. And sort of putting characters on a tier list does get quite difficult unless you're talking about particular game modes. So, as I said, for the endgame tier list, we are focusing on those big 3. And we have a bunch of tiers that I'm going to go through when we dive into the tier list. But if you enjoy this kind of stuff, belt the like button for me if you're new to the channel. Hit that big red subscribe button. With that said, let's take a look at last month's end of game tier list. Alright, so here we are. This is the endgame tier list of last month, and I am going to make some pretty big changes. And I am going to be a little bit ruthless as well. Obviously, we have a bunch of characters to talk about down here, being the new 6 pluses, the new Perispera Kazuna Legend, and the 3 worldwide anniversary exclusives. But, just to touch base with you guys that don't know this, basically this down here is you never used. You're not going to use these characters at all. They're kind of whatever. These were just dupes, by the way, down here, so don't worry about them. But all these characters, you're pretty much never going to use them. You can, like, honestly looking at this, you definitely can use this Blackbeard in something like, what's it called? In Grand Voyage. He definitely can be used. So I guess you're going to put him up here in Grand Voyage Monsters. But, like, other than that, like, these characters, you're just never going to use them. So leveling them up is kind of a bit of a waste of time. As for supports, these characters, you just want to max out their supports and call it a day. From, like, Perona down, these are all stat boosting supports. Or actually, no, you're not. They're all basically stat boosting supports, and they're all like ones that I really like to use on a common basis. Akainu especially, like Mihawk, Perona is fantastic, Kaido gives a lot of stats. I don't think you give stats actually, but the rest of them, they all like do something on the final stage really. Like King gives a or buff to powerhouse characters, Whitebeard removes despair, like all of this kind of stuff. Like most of these characters top here, like Garp, this Odin is yeah, I pretty much only use this Odin as support. That's crazy. This Odin's really good. But, like, you don't use him anywhere besides using him as support. And that's what I mean. We're going to be ruthless. Like, these characters, some characters are really good. But, for me personally, like, I only ever use Odin as a support nowadays. Actually, that's a lie. He should be freaking up here in PvP. What am I doing? He's 100%. He should 100% be up here in PvP. That moves us on to the next tier, being PvP. Like, these characters are good in PvP. And if you are looking at using them as an endgame player, you'll pretty much just see these characters in the PvP meta, not really anywhere else. Treasure Map Speedsters, these guys are just really good for Treasure Map as either captains because they have utility, or they have wave clearing shenanigans with their super types, etc. For example, like I'm using Kuzan like massively. Izakiko I use every single Treasure Map. Shirahoshi with Rainbow Orbs. And the utility of stuff like Ace and Doflamingo works great. Moving on to Grand Voyage Monsters, these are all good Grand Voyage options. This Mihawk, like great for like some of the newer Grand Voyages. Like, this Shanks, you need level limit break plus, but, like, you guys see what I mean when it comes to this sort of tier. They're good for Grand Voyage, and that's basically all you use them for. Like, that's the purpose of this particular tier. This top Musica is fantastic in Grand Voyage, but honestly, I'm going to bring her down into PvP, because I use this unit more in PvP. But if you have her, she's going to be great for Grand Voyage. Doesn't mean that Grand Voyage is a higher tier here. It just means that like these characters are very, very good. These 3 tiers are sort of in the same boat. Grand Voyage, Treasure Map, and PvP. They're all sort of specifically talking about that one game mode. And then the amazing, meta, and top 10 are the characters that sort of perform really, really well across the board. They're good in PvP. They're good in Grand Voyage. They're good in 10-star Kazunas and Super Boss Kazunas. But we are going to make some changes. We're going to make some big changes. I'm going to change this to a top 5. I'm going to be a little bit more ruthless, like I said. We are going to make some quite big changes. First of all, I'm going to bring Shanks down into meta. I think against Super Boss 10-star events, he shows how, amazing he is if there is no full immunity. A fantastic Kazuna unit. However, in PvP, it doesn't shine that much. Treasure map, you're not really going to be using him. So I think his meta is Super Boss Kazuna. As for Robin, same thing. Super Boss Kazunas, all that sort of stuff. Absolutely fantastic character. But PvP, Treasure map, she just doesn't shine at all. She's not a character you're going to use there. As for this Snake Man, I think he falls into that same category. Great for regular content. Great for stuff like 10-star Super Boss Kazunas. But PvP and Treasure map, you're never really going to be using him. But his meta is amazing in Super Boss Kazuna. And then as for the other characters, I'm going to bring I really want to leave K-Dot honestly up in the top 5. Because they're so good in PvP, they're so good in Treasure Map, and in Super Boss Kazuna, they can perform. The downside is with this Kaido running around in Super Boss Kazuna, if you can use this Kaido, you're going to use this Kaido. So unfortunately, I am going to bring the unit of K-Dad down. Their utility is great for Treasure Map, their wave clearing is great for Treasure Map, they're great in PvP, but for Super Boss, they just never really shone. Whilst they can be used, they never really shone heavily. Next unit that I am going to bring down is the Straw Hat Crew. I think Straw Hat Crew has finally had its time. Them or Yamato, I think I'm going to actually... Honestly, I think Straw Hat Crew can stay up in the top 5. Because, like, they're great in PvP. They're great in Treasure Map. I actually see a lot of endgame grinders use them because their special gives you so many buffs. Rainbow. And they're amazing in Grand Voyage. Super Boss, they're great. Great in 10-star events. So, I think keeping them in top 5 is the way to go. And bringing Yamato down because she's good in PvP, but it's only against Quick. But, like, don't get me wrong, she's definitely very, very good. Treasure Map, you're not going to use this unit, and she doesn't have any Grand Voyages that she can shine in. But, yeah, so as for the top 5, I am going to make a change here, and I'm going to bring Luffy behind Uta. I think Uta, I know this is looks like a top 6, but really this Uta is exactly the same. This Uta has so much value, being top Musica, being the quick Uta, being the int Uta. You have so many different options with class captains and color captains that I think her value definitely shoots to number 2, but Nami is by far the best character in the game. Like, they are trying to cockblock Nami so hard in the Super Boss, and we think we still found a way to make Nami work that could potentially be more damage than what they want you to do. So, this unit has been a staple in point farming events. She's been a staple in Kazuna. She's been a staple in Treasure Map. Like, she's so good across the board. The only place she struggles in is PvP, but she's so good everywhere else that it doesn't even matter. Like, it doesn't matter at all. Uta, like I said, her flexibility, her usability across the board in stuff like 10-star Kazunas, Super Boss Kazunas, especially with this one here, Grand Voyages with, like, Top Musica, PP with Top Musica. Like, this unit, having the 3 variations, is so good. This Luffy, fantastic unit, great for Super Boss. Can be used in Treasure Map for removing Despair, and, like, if you just need to remove Despair, just, like, a 1 special situation. And just a fantastic PvP character. Kaido, everyone knows how good Kaido is in the Super Boss. He's great in Treasure Map as well, because you can wave clear with his Super Class. Plus, he is okay in Rumble. I don't use him in Rumble, but I do want a lot of people like the Striker Strength team, and it can still be used against decks. Finally, Straw Hat Crew, we all know how good their final tap is. Like I said, they're great in PvP, great in Rumble, great in PvP Rumble. They are good in Grand Voyage. They have a Grand Voyage that they can complete. They're fantastic in Super Boss, like one of the best Super Boss units. Great in 10-star events, and they are very good in Treasure Map for those higher nav levels. As for meta, this one here is the meta tier sort of satisfies that they do what they do really well on their team, and there's not really other characters that can do it better than them. However, there are some changes that I want to make here. I do want to bring Chopper down into Amazing. I think Chopper has seen his time in the sun, and I don't think he's as good as what he seemed like he was going to be on paper. Hiyori. Now, this is going to piss some people off, because everyone loves this Hiyori, but I don't. I use his Hiyori in Treasure Map, and that is it. She was good in Grand Voyage. She was amazing in Grand Voyage, but I think that this Carrot Wonder team that you initially had before Hiyori's release is just better. So, for me, I use her in Treasure Map. Like, you can put her in Grand Voyage monsters here. I would definitely agree with that. But for me, I honestly would put this, like, Treasure Map Space is a little bit higher than Grand Voyage, because, like, you beat Grand Voyage. Honestly, I would put Grand Voyage down here. You beat Grand Voyage once, and then you don't have to touch it again. Where Treasure Map, like, I use this Hiyori every single Treasure Map. Like, every single Treasure Map. If you are a speed farming Treasure Map player like myself, you'll always use this character. Same with Shirahoshi, like, the Rainbow Orbs, the Wano Orbs, they're so freaking valuable. As for, this Yamato, like, this Yamato and this Yamato, I guess if you have one, you have both. And, like, this Yamato is still so good. However, I don't ever use this Yamato anymore. So, if you have, Sai Yamato, like, I would probably just keep her as Sai Yamato, and this Yamato's pretty much dropped off, but we will keep them together. Roger is disgustingly good still across the board. Can see play in stuff like Super Boss. I do feel like he will be able to see play. 10-star events, he's going to be great. PvP, he's great. And in Treasure Map, this guy is an absolute weapon. Like, don't underestimate what this guy can do. Neko Inu, great for 10-star event. Kazuna's great for PvP. Great for Treasure Map, so they are very, very good. Plus, they're exceptional PvP characters. Anyone else in this tier, Sop, absolutely amazing in Super Boss. These guys are Super Boss kings. Kid, I'm going to bring Kid down. I think Kid's probably dropped off a lot. And honestly, for me, I only ever use Kid in PvP on this Driven team where Top Music is. I think that's where he shines the most. And as an endgame player, that's where he's going to see most of his value. So, yeah. As for the rest of the meta tier, I think the rest of the meta tier is quite fine. I do want to see what this Rayleigh Gaban combination can do with Roger. I think they're going to be very, very good for a lot of content. Ben Beckman, Lucky Roo. They probably dropped off a lot with the new Sabo release. With the new Sabo release, I'm going to drop them down to amazing. Doesn't mean they're bad. They have a great support, and I think I'm going to use them in Super Boss as a support, but I think with the new Sabo's release, they do have to come down. Just because I think Sabo just replaces them on that quick, like, Super Boss team. But this guy literally carries shooters. Like, he puts shooters on his back, and he carries them into success. Queen, I'm going to bring Queen down to PvP as well. Like, you could say Queen's probably a support legend now, but, like, PvP, you definitely can use Queen on that quick team. That quick driven team, especially, with, like, this kid. Very, very good. Whitebeard, he is a treasure map speedster, as I've realized this particular treasure map. You can use his super cluster wave clear. He has end of turn damage. Very, very powerful for getting around like stuff like resilience. And he has a very good special to just sort of clear. So I do think he's going to be a treasure map speedster moving forward. Sasaki has completely dropped off the planet. He has a decent support. And that's basically about it. I'm going to put him next to these guys here. He's the best of the three Toby Ropo, but honestly, like, it's kind of like, why though? Page 1 ulti, honestly, you're never going to use Page 1 ulti anymore. They need a 6+ level limit break super badly. Who else we got here? Jinbei, I think Jimbo's seen his time. Like, I was expecting a lot more from Jimbo, and, like, he just didn't deliver. I'm not saying that this is a bad unit. Like, Hina, not a bad unit. Fortunately, you're just never going to use them. Like, you're just never going to use them. They don't shine anywhere that, like, helps out. Even in PvP, like, that Jinbei's just, like, better, like, just replaced. This, Kaido, I guess you could probably say he's a PvP, like, unit. You definitely can use him on the PvP team. He's got the very good PvP abilities. But, like, there's just better options. Like, there's so many better options for that team. That you definitely can use him. He's very good in Grand Voyage as well. So you could make an argument to me that he goes there. But, like, again, there's just better options for that Grand Voyage. So I'm going to leave him in PvP for now. Let me know if you agree or disagree on that one in the comment section below. As for stuff like Frankie Tanky, you're going to go into Grand Voyage monsters. You're great at 2 Grand Voyage, being the shooter one at Syrup Village, and then at Axe Hand Morgan as well. So you're going to come down to Grand Voyage monsters. That's pretty much the only time I see you there. See you used. This Big Mom is an absolute Grand Voyage demon. She's great in the Barriate, and she's great... That's PvP. She's great in the Barriate with Powerhouse units, and she's great in the... What's the other one? The one at Orangetown with this one over here against Luffy. So she's very, very good. She gets her full cooldowns too, so it shows her true worth. But as for, like, what she wanted to do in Super Boss, she just missed the mark. Like, she missed the mark hard. Kinemon Denjiro and Odin, they're still really, really good. But, like, I mean, if I was going to take Odin anywhere, for me, he's a PvP unit. Like, that's where you see most of your play with this Odin. Where's the side team? Here. You'll see most of your play with Odin in PvP. However, like, last Super Boss, this Odin was so good alongside, like, versus Yamato. But, like, I don't think you're going to see that same value this time in Super Boss. So I think we're going to drop him down to PvP this month, but that might, like I said, this is subject to change every month, and that's kind of why I want to do these on a monthly basis, because the meta shifts, and, like, things do change. As for Chopper, like, these guys here are just your super subs. I'm going to bring you just away from the super subs. Yep. So these ones here are all your super subs. Robin Jinbei, fantastic in 10-star Kazunas. Vivi Rebecca, absolutely amazing in Rune Defense up. Like, these characters here are just, like, characters that are just going to help out in those 10 stars and majority of the rest of the game. But they're definitely worth leveling up. And especially if you have like these at level limit break 5, they are definitely going to see a lot of worth. These characters here are great at just sort of helping majority of teams get through stuff, and same with Pudding. So this sort of row here in Amazing is like the exception to the big end game, like Kazuna situation. These characters are just pretty much characters that you want to level up, you want to have ready to go, because they're just good everywhere else, like Garb challenges and arenas and all that sort of stuff. They just help out so drastically. Coral Law, honestly, Coral Law had a interesting like stint, but like even their support is just bad, because you need to have them at level 3, so that kind of sucks. And I think they're just going to be like at the moment, you're just never going to use them. Like, it sucks, because I really like that unit. I really, really like that unit. This Luffy, we're going to have to bring this Luffy out of the situation, because like he's got a 6+. And same with Cat Dog. So Cat Dog's going to come out here, because they are they're 6+ kicked in as well. As for the rest, I'm pretty happy with the rest of this. Like this sort of like low, like this tier here, you could just definitely say like, yeah, sweet, never going to use. And that's fine when we're talking about the end game. But for everyone else, I feel like everyone else is pretty solid here. Marco, the 10-star king. Carrot, like when she gets her level limit break and her level limit break, she's going to be crazy. Timon Dendro, they probably drop out as well, if I'm honest. Probably the same argument as Odin, and but they're very good on Free Spirit PvP. So I definitely think they deserve to be on the tier list somewhere not in never going to use, because you will use them in PvP if you have any Free Spirit. But they're at the back end, kind of like the fire tanks. Like they're really good in PvP, so I do want to give them the credit. But like I wouldn't really level them up. Like I would keep them how you going. But I think that's probably where we want to stand on the tier list at the moment. I am going to actually bring Rayleigh Gaban down, because Rayleigh Gaban don't have that much value in like treasure map and in PvP. I can see them being good in Super Boss and 10-star, but like from what we've seen like coming up, I don't really see them being used. But I think they probably fit this amazing tier pretty nicely. So that's going to wrap up the changes, I think. Let me know in the comment section below if you agree, if you disagree, if you have any opinions. I would love to know. Keep it fresh, keep it friendly, because remember, this is my opinion on sort of the end game content as an end game player. And yeah, let me know. So let's take a look at the newer characters. So we have the 6+s of Luffy and Cat Dog. Cat Dog was a revolutionary 6+. Like, we cannot deny how good Cat Viper and Dogstorm is. However, let's be real. Like, as an endgame player, you're only going to use Cat Viper and Dogstorm in Grand Voyage, and then they're basically just going to sit in your box, and then you're not going to use them until, like, maybe a treasure map, because they give so many cooldowns. Like, you could maybe argue to me that they're a treasure map speedster, but I haven't really seen them be a speedster, because they're actually like boosted in this particular treasure map that we have. So I just think that they just go back in the same spot that they were. They got a super buff. Like, their buff is crazy. But they are going to still see the Grand Voyage Master. Same with Shanks Crew with their 6+. There's just a Grand Voyage Master as well. Like, their buff, their 6+, isn't as good as what Cat Viper and Dogstorm's was, because like Cat Viper and Dogstorm were dead, where I don't think Shanks Crew was ever dead per se. For endgame players, he definitely was, but like for most players, he wasn't, and that's why it was kind of underwhelming when we saw his 6+. But he's still very, very good, and like the combination of these two against local sea monster now is just going to absolutely decimate it. I actually have a team in mind where we don't even need this Rayleigh. This Shanks obviously needs level limit break 5, but now with this guy being a 6+, like this guy is completely replaceable. You don't even need him anymore, so that's always fun to see. As for Red Rock Luffy, I really like Red Rock Luffy, man. Like, I undersold Red Rock Luffy so much when I first read his kit. The 5.5 times captain is no joke. Like, it is no joke. It's disgusting. Like, I forgot how good Shanks was with his 5.5 times captain, and then the super type on top of that. Luffy's so good, man. Like, he's so good. You haven't found that level 5 as well? Like, holy shit. The amount of damage this guy has is disgusting. Like, it is so freaking gross. But for the meantime, we are going to leave him in the amazing tier. He might pop up a little bit more for Super Boss. I have some ideas with him, but I don't know if he's going to find a way onto that team. But, look, he might. And if he does, yeah, like, watch out, because this Luffy's going to do some crazy things. But, for the meantime, we're going to leave him there in amazing. Just because there is a new Luffy as well, it does make him very hard to be used in Super Boss, because the new Luffy is basically, it's designed for him. So, I do think he can be used. I think he's going to be great in 10 stars. He's actually really good in Grand Voyage now. Like, you can actually build some really funky teams for Buggy, and you don't need Brook. So, that was kind of revolutionary for this guy. As for being a treasure map speedster, like, you could argue that he's good. Like, he's a wave clearing special, so, like, you can use him as a wave clearer, which is awesome. But I do think he probably has a little bit more value than just treasure map at the moment. But, like, as time goes on, like I said, this is subject to change every month, and that's why I want to try and do this every month, at the back end of the month, rather than the start of the month. Just to sort of see how these characters perform. As for, Perospero. Perospero obviously had his own Kazuna last month. But, like, besides that, I don't really know how this particular Perospero is going to go. I think he rounds out the Dex Strikers fairly nicely, but the downside to this Perospero is he's not good in Grand Voyage. He doesn't have a Grand Voyage. He's not good in PvP. Like, I mean, you can use him against Quick, but, like, why? Like, there's so many other options that are just better. He's got a fantastic special, but he just doesn't hold that much value in every area of the game that isn't probably 10-star Kazuna at the moment. So, for me, he is an amazing character. I'm going to stick him right at the back end here because, like, I don't really know. Like, once we come around to sort of, like, Kazuna, like, you definitely can use him. But honestly, for me, whilst he's a fantastic character, as an endgame player, you're probably never going to use him, if I'm honest. Like, once you pull him, he's kind of like, he's probably just going to sit there. He might see play every now and again for a very niche situation or a being point boosted. But honestly, like, for how good this Perospero is on paper, it's kind of disappointing to see that he doesn't really shine in those endgame content. And that's what this tier list is about. So unfortunately, like I said, I have to be ruthless. I'm going to put him down here and never going to use. As for the next three, we have the ASL brothers. We have Ace, Sabo, and Luffy. Let's start with Ace. Ace honestly seems pretty cool. He introduces a new buff where, like, he can give you, like, a chain carryover effect. He gives you tandem orbs. He has an interesting super tandem that you can use every turn. But the big thing that I see with Ace, he gives you base stats as well if you have a chain boost, is he has to compete with Nami. Competing with Nami is just bad, if I'm honest. If we have a look at the Super Boss information, like, they've cockblocked Nami so hard. They shoehorned you into using Ace, like, disgustingly. But I still think Nami, like, across the board is going to be better. And unless they do something like that, Nami's going to win in every situation. So, for that, I just don't see Ace being that good in Super Boss. I think he's going to be great in this Super Boss, but moving forward in other Super Bosses, I just don't see him being, like, the be-all or end-all. As for his captain ability, he is a 5.25 times captain, and then he has that Yamato buff with 0.3, which is great, but you do need a quick unit on the team. So then you do need to bring, like, Sabo or some other quick unit to sort of trigger that. And there are a lot of good characters that can do that. Like this Law, for example, is a fantastic option. But for what he provides with his special, 1.5 times chain, really going up to a 3.5 if you build the team right. But that's a lot of work, by the way. Like, it's to get that popping. Like, you need that new Luffy and you need some chain boundary stuff, like the new Sabo. The three of them together, like, don't get me wrong, when you put the three of them together, they're so good. But for what Ace can provide, like, he's not super great, if I'm honest. Like, he doesn't really, like, tick all the boxes for me. His super type as well gives 20% resistance for Psy, and then 40% for Quick, and it's like, why wouldn't you do the 40% for Psy and then 20% for Quick? Like, he's a Psy unit, like, why not make that unit shine itself? And I just don't see him being very, very good in future Super Bosses, future Kazuna, 10-star Kazunas. Like, he will be able to be used, but he won't be exceptional and be outstanding in them. And in Grand Voyage, he doesn't have anything going for him, and in Treasure Map, he doesn't have anything that's really standing out, like utility and whatnot. Where he will definitely shine, though, is PvP. I think in PvP, this unit is going to be absolutely amazing. Like, he's going to be fantastic. On the shooter defense team, this guy is an absolute demon. I think he's a fantastic Grand Party leader. I think the shooter's got a massive, like, resurgence with the release of Chopper and stuff like that. So I do think that, like, for most endgame players, after you pull this Ace, most of the time you're going to see them is in this PvP. Like, it's fortunate, but that's the way it is with Ace, if I'm completely honest with you. Next, we've got Luffy. Luffy was, like, the first announcement, and honestly, for a new game player, Luffy is so good. For a new game player that's happy to stall, build some, like, hybrid-based teams, rainbow-based teams, Luffy is disgusting. 10 turns of paralysis, 10 turns of blind removal, 5 turns of an orb boost, chain multiplicative shenanigans. Like, it's so good. Where this guy suffers, though, is that he is a Luffy character. Being a Luffy means that he's now directly competing with this guy right here, He's directly competing with this guy right here. And in Super Boss Kazunas and 10-star Kazunas, or 10-star Kazunas, I can see this guy being good as a sub, but not as a captain. Like, you're not going to get, in a short event, in a 3-turn event, that crazy 5.5 times captain. It's just not going to happen. You have to do some absurd stalling, and for the amount of work you have to do to get that captain, where, like, this guy just gets it for having a non-type orb, this guy just has it for using his special, like, it kind of missed the mark for me. He also has a bit of like wonkiness with his super class. You lose HP, and you can't use his final tap. His final tap, honestly, is kind of mid. At level 5 can be good, being 1.75, but you need to be above 90% HP. So there's that issue as well. If you use him super class, then you lose HP if you're running free spirits. So, like, it is janky in that regard. But for the next Super Boss Kazuna, it does seem like this guy is going to be outstanding. For treasure map, this guy has been absolutely great in this particular treasure map. But in future treasure maps, like, this guy, like, you could pop him on turn 1, don't get me wrong, and then just have all that carryover stuff happen. But then you have to hit perfects, and most of the time in treasure map, you're wave clearing, so you're not going to have that carryover, you're just going to have his orb boost, and at that point, using something like Uta is just going to be better. So I do think that, honestly, Red Rock Luffy is going to see a lot more play than this Luffy. Luffy doesn't really hold any, like, Grand Voyage situations, like, he doesn't help out in getting you the missions at all. PvP, he's good, like, he's good in PvP, but... and in, like, treasure map, he's okay, but, like, he just isn't going to be all that. However, I do think he is going to be a very, very good sub for endgame players in most, like, this content, provided you don't get blow away and stuff like that, and if you can build up his captain ability, he is going to be disgustingly valuable in those, like, those hard areas. So for me, I'm going to stick him in amazing. I don't know if he even deserves to be in amazing, if I'm honest, but obviously it's hard to sort of gauge these characters, you know, as a whole, moving forward, because it's their month and they're trying to make these characters shine so much. But moving forward, I just don't see the value in this Luffy or the Ace as much as I do see in Sabo. And the reason I say that is Sabo is, in my opinion, the best of the 3. And the reason I like Sabo the most is because he has an auto trigger with his captain. He's a chain boundary unit, and he can remove special blind. So as a captain, you get a lot of value there. He has an amazing super class. I wish it wasn't super cerebral, but look, it is, and we move. I would love this to be super striker. I know we have a lot of striker units in the game, and there's a lot of super strikers. We don't need another super striker, but God, we did not need another quick super cerebral. If this guy was super striker, it would have just made it so much better for the super boss coming up. Would have made it so much better for what's it called? For the quick sort of striker builds. You could do hybrid stuff with, like, Kaido, and you could do some really, really cool stuff there, but unfortunately he is a super cerebral. Even super free spirit would have been absolutely fantastic. I would have copped super type even, but no, we have another super cerebral. He's super type. Super class is very good, gives massive color affinity, 2.5. He's a 5.4 captain when you have matching orbs. He gives you a lot of matching orbs, and if you, like, partner, like, him up with Ace, you can speed farm content very, very quickly. But like I said, every character can pretty much beat every piece of content in the game, so we do really need to look at them in a sense of something like Treasure Map, and we do need to look at them in stuff like Super Boss. Now, for me, I think this guy is a direct replacement for the Quick Team over Ben Beckman Lucky Row. And the reason I say that is because with Sabo, you get a 3.0 chain boundary maxing at 35 times, where this guy here is a 2.75, maxing at 35, I'm pretty sure. So you get a little bit better chain boost, and with Uta, you're already getting their buff to the chain anyway, but you can definitely run like Ben Beckman Lucky Root or Sabo, depending on what you need to do. But I think Sabo has now just become a direct replacement for Ben Beckman and Lucky Root, and that's the reason I dropped Ben Beckman Lucky Root to amazing. It's not that they're not another option for this team up here, but besides that Super Boss, that was really what was sort of carrying them in that meta tier, whilst they are literally putting shooters on their back everywhere else. But Sabo, fantastic unit. Great synergy with the Sabo Luffy. He has very, very good units that you can use for his super class. The downside that I do find is he's super tandem, whilst it is the strongest out of him and Ace. It's just so annoying he doesn't go through full immunity. It's so annoying that conditional boost is what it is, and it only pops on level 3. So, like, once you get into level 5, you can do a lot of damage there, an extra 2 times conditional. But you obviously need to be able to pop that conditional, and if there is full immunity, he just gets completely shafted. Unlike Shanks, where Shanks in full immunity, if you're versing a strength super boss, it doesn't matter because you're already versing the type advantage anyway. Where this just becomes completely, like, pointless, and then you're just going to use Shanks' super tandem anyway for that. So the super tandem kind of becomes redundant. You can definitely use this guy in Treasure Map 2. Say you get special binded on your sailors, and then you can use him as a captain. And or you can use him like just with his auto trigger. If everyone gets special bound, you can auto trigger him with his chain multiplier or his chain like boost. There's a lot of very good characters that can pop that for you. Supports trigger that as well. So Sabo, in my opinion, is the best of the three, and he is going to see the most meta play in that Super Boss team moving forward. He also has great utility removing damage reduction as well. So very, very good unit. But that's going to wrap up the end game tier list. Like I said, we were being very ruthless here, and we did make a bunch of different changes. Let me know if you guys like the format of this tier list. I think making these types of tier lists can be very challenging for endgame players, because unless you're talking about a particular game mode, you're not really going to see the true value in what the tier list provides. So if you guys would like to see different tier lists for different game modes, let me know in the comment section below. And if you have any other ideas to sort of fine-tune the tier list as well, please let me know down there as well. But if you enjoyed the video, belt the like button for me. If you're new to the channel, if you haven't done so already, hit that big red subscribe button. Most importantly, wherever you guys are in this beautiful world, please remember to enjoy the rest of your day. As always, homies, I thank you for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Late!